right, guys, want to welcome everybody in. It is Three Dads Talk Theme Parks, episode 4. And we want to thank you guys for coming out and joining us tonight. We may have our third dad joining us tonight. We are not sure if he's going to make it in or not. We have recently found out he's had a lot going on the last couple of weeks. That is why he has not been joining us. But he is planning to join us very, very soon. So he will be back in the mix pretty soon here. And tonight we're delving into all things Universal Studios, as my hat is covered with lint and dog hair. That's the beauty of 4 rescue dogs at the house. It happens.
We're delving in as much as we can in an hour.
Correct. This could be the first of a couple of episodes in regards to Universal Studios.
Right.
But we've had a couple people that have messaged, and I know we've talked some Disney, we've talked some of the new policies, but with so much exciting stuff going on right now in the Universal realm, I really feel like it's a good call to dive into what Universal has been doing and really kind of go through not just how they have increased their overall performance over the past couple of years, but how they really have kind of equalized things in the theme park world. They've always kind of been nodded as the redheaded stepchild to Disney. And I think a lot of people agree that throughout this pandemic, Universal has really upped their game. They've really stood out and done some great things. And I also think that the addition, the completion of Velocicoaster, the new projects, the excitement around Epic Universe and what's going to be coming. There's a lot to talk about. And I know, you have equally spent just about as much time as Universal as you have at Disney.
That's right.
And I think diving into some of that and touching on some of your opinions on where they're similar and where they're apart, and clearing up some of the misconceptions again that, they are a little bit of the redheaded stepchild. I really feel Tegan and I have gone to Universal this year. We spent 10 days there. We got annual passes as a result of the pandemic and them being cost friendlier, 1, and 2, offering the specials they did during COVID to try to and get people excited about it. And when Disney stopped selling passes, we decided to jump on the Universal bandwagon and give it a try. And we're super thankful we did. We've been very impressed.
From what I know in your experiences in the short time that you've been able to use those annual passes, you have not looked back. And that's pretty impressive for those listening and watching. You may not know, but Brian and his daughter just die hard Disney fans. So that was a huge leap of faith.
Oh, without a doubt.
So here's a couple of fun little facts for you regarding Universal. The first one, where the Universal footprint is now, that intersection of I-4 and the Turnpike, Disney actually looked at that land when they started scouting the Central Florida area, but there just wasn't enough real estate there.
Right.
And in the early 60s, Universal had actually scouted Central Florida before Walt did. And they felt that it just wasn't viable enough to support a theme park.
And when you think about that now, that is 2 of the most popular theme parks in the country reside in the same city, in the same state, that there was huge skepticism even when Walt decided to go that venture.
Oh, yeah.
That Orlando now exceeds what Disneyland does in visitors.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers are incredible. And the fact that played out the way it did both for Universal and with Disney is pretty amazing. I mean, given what Florida has to offer for potential complications be it the weather, the marshlands, the animals, insects, and issues with that.
Right.
Just Universal, I feel equally matches that comfort. Like we've never had issues with the bugs. You see the critters around like you always do, but they're very good at also dealing with the mosquito issue, the other things that can be problematic in other parts of Florida that just it's that overlooked accessory that is a plus that people just forget to think about.
It's true. It's true. And it's a thing that's either not known or certainly not widely known is, the two organizations often share and exchange information. Even though they're completely separate companies with different stakeholders. I was going to print it up and show it, and I forgot to do it before tonight's show, but Disney took out a full page ad in the Sentinel welcoming Universal to the area,
Right.
and wishing them success, which it's a pretty cool thing, but it's fun. It's fun. And now you can't think of Orlando without thinking of Disney and Universal and, to a degree, SeaWorld.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree. Like what Orlando offers is pretty crazy. And I know tonight we want to kind of focus on Universal itself, which I think, is also an important thing to do. Universal, to me, the most recent trip we took, we had gone when Tegan was probably 5 or 6. Yeah, she was a little older than that. She was probably 7 when we went. And she had seen Transformers. She was a little, like she had never watched The Simpsons. That just wasn't a show that she was into when she was young.
Right.
She had never really experienced Harry Potter at that point. She's a little too young for that, for the full-fledged feel of it, which she later became obsessed with. But, she had kind of just barely scratched the surface of the materials that are and theming that is offered in Universal. So while she enjoyed the rides and some of the fun and the food and where we stayed and the boat rides and everything else, it was just a little bit like, I really don't know what this is, but I like the ride. The ride was fun, which we enjoyed. But I was super excited this past year to build up and get her ready to bring her back, where she had read every Harry Potter book multiple times, seen every movie multiple times, was so enamored with Harry Potter and learning every possible tidbit she could learn. She was on Google reading like everything from the movies to the books to thought processes behind stuff to every little Easter egg that was located in Universal. She was just diehard dedicated to figuring it all out. And then add in some of the other things that she's really been able to enjoy with Universal. She started watching The Simpsons last year. She started getting into some of the other shows. Watchmen and Black, was more familiar with what was going on. So by the time we had included all the movies and all the theming that was involved in Universal, she was able to really experience and enjoy it and tie in the theming this year. And that was super fun, from Jurassic Park to Harry Potter to everything. And the immersion. And I remember you speaking on this in a prior episode that, when you first walked into Diagon Alley, just you thinking, wow, I could live here. And that level of amazement with the theming and the way they do things and everything else is just super, super impressive to me.
I agree.
They have done an amazing job.
I think, the Disney's loss when Universal was starting to build Islands of Adventure was, of course, Islands Gain, with all the Imagineers that were released. They went down the street, and that's why when you walk through Islands, you see layers and levels of detail, and you see storytelling, visual storytelling. And for me, I remember the first time I stepped foot into Islands of Adventure, and walking through the mythic kingdom, and just seeing how everything was laid out, the tents, and it at first, the first thing that came to me was, this is the kind of thing, if someone had a blank check and loved Renaissance festivals, this is what they would do, because it wouldn't just be a bunch of pop-ups. And I mean, it felt great. It looked great. It sounded great. And all that interactivity goes to the next level once they bring in Harry Potter, with Hogsmeade, which was just stunning. But then, Diagon Alley completely set the bar. And yeah, it's the first theme park environment I ever walked into anywhere in the world where I went, I want to live here.
Yeah.
This is cool.
It was incredible. I mean, I see the post, and one of the things about theme parks that, for myself at least, my greatest enjoyment out of it is when I get to be near someone experiencing something for the first time.
Yes.
In a theme park. And it doesn't matter if it's at Disney, it doesn't matter if it's at Universal or SeaWorld or anywhere, but to see the level of overwhelming, just the shock as they try to grasp the immensity of what is before them, whether it be theming, a ride, whatever it is, to see that first experience
right
for a guest is just incredible.
And there's it's almost like there's a cultural memory and a magical energy that's waiting, and those are examples of the real experience trumping, far exceeding whatever you imagined in your mind. I mean, another great example, first time I went to the Field of Dreams baseball diamond in Dyersville, Iowa, I couldn't help it. I did what thousands of people before me did. I walked across the baseball field and right into the cornfields. And then when I had the sense to stop doing that, I went over to the bleachers and I sat down and I just watched people, and I watched as people arrived, and they would do the same thing. They would just look around. And that's, when you look at the Magic Kingdom and you see the train station serves as a curtain to the stage, and when people come out through either end, and then there they are right there at the bottom of Main Street, and they see the castle up there, you see the same thing happening when people slip into the way Hogsmeade's designed. It's the same sort of thing. Diagon Alley is designed more for you to explore and find these hidden treasures every time you turn a corner or you look. You got to stop. People who rush through there miss the conversations that are happening, miss the whispers, miss the details.
There's so many people. It's funny. I've read so many blogs and talked to so many people and seen, the discussion, and it's amazing that, for so long people walked through Universal Studios even after Diagon Alley had opened and never made their way in because they missed it. They just didn't know it was there.
Right.
Or the other side of that is, even when they're going in, they miss Nocturne Alley. They miss, there were people, I was reading a blog the other day that a lady said, I didn't go in there for 3 years because I thought it was the restrooms. And she's like, I didn't know anything was in there. She said, I thought it was a hallway that went to restrooms.
Yep.
And she's like, so I never got to experience the cool little tidbits. And that's where, my daughter's excitement and the Googling and the research she does and everything prior to us going somewhere, she teaches me more stuff in theme parks than I learned from the cast members. And some of the cast members or team members that she has conversation with, she'll actually tell them stuff. And I'll see a team member look at her and go, I never knew that.
Yep.
and she teaches people stuff, but there is so much there. And, you know, the immersion of what goes on in the wizarding world at Universal is one of the best I have ever seen. And, you know, the level of attention to detail, being able to walk through the platform at 9 3/4
Yeah.
and, you know, go through the wall, and the ways that they were able to do things and create that magic, even if it is, you know, like on the screen through the phone and, you know, doing the things you're doing, you get to live that moment. And for the diehard Harry Potter fans, it is just amazingly incredible. I mean, I love watching the people in Diagon Alley that are aware it's there and they go in and all of a sudden that dragon lets go and half
Yes.
the people in there
Yes.
don't expect it.
Nope.
And watching people jump or drop their
Yeah.
butterbeer, or, you know, like it's crazy just the level of excitement that gets
Right.
created in that area.
You mentioned, you know, you talk about scale, and I remember how absolutely blown away I was in Hogsmeade walking in, and the closer you got to Hogwarts, to the school, the bigger it got. It wasn't that forced perspective thing. It
Right.
was you're looking up and the spires are just shooting up into the sky, and things like that. Just, I mean, it really creates a footprint you can't ignore. Or when, you know, when the announcement was made that they were going to join the two parks with the train, with the Hogwarts Express,
Yeah.
there was rightfully a lot of skepticism. And I know the first time I climbed on it, I'm not as knowledgeable with the Potter world, the Potterverse, as others are, but I was blown away by what I experienced, and I knew they'd gotten it right because I'm listening to people like Tegan who highly knowledgeable and understand what they're talking
Yep.
about. And you know, the thing that I challenge people is like, if you don't think it's amazing on either platform, I challenge you, when you see the train come in or pull out, see if you can find a time where nobody's taking pictures. It's got to be one of those highly photographed things, just like Hogwarts Castle from the bridge is constantly photographed throughout the day.
Yep.
Man, getting your photo with the train and the steam, it's just, yeah. I want to
Yeah,
live there.
I mean, they did a great job, and having been there recently enough to have experienced the new ride and go on the Velocicoaster,
Right.
you know, I saw that going up. I followed it online, was very impressed with, you know, what the ride looked as though it was going to be. I mean, when you watch the loop go up and they
Yep.
built that, and you're looking at the angles and looking at the way the track's going to roll and go over it, and you're just thinking, wow, that's nuts. And then you're watching the track go up over the water and you're like, what? Are you kidding me? This is crazy. And then when you actually got to go on, and we were there prior to the official opening date, and every day in the park, you know, and it's funny too, because you start to realize something as a, you know, I'm in a lot of Disney forums. I'm in a lot of Universal forums on Facebook, on social media. So pretty much any news. Good evening, Frank. How are you tonight? Thank you for joining us. Anybody that is going to Universal or Disney that goes all the time knows the new news as soon as it comes out. Like there's no break. But the overwhelming majority of people in the parks, which I would say is at 90% of the people in the parks, aren't aware of a lot of those things. They're not aware of what a soft opening is.
It's true.
When we opened, we rope dropped the park over Memorial Day weekend. We did it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and I did it on Tuesday. We opened the park. And when we opened the park, we rushed to Velocicoaster every day. And the bridge wasn't open yet. to cross over before you get to Hogsmeade. So you had to walk through Hogsmeade and walk around because it was faster than walking the other way by the Hulk, because the entrance to Velocicoaster, if you're not aware, is closer to the bridge going to Hogsmeade. And then there's a walk bridge that you can cut over to it that is actually right near Mythos that allows you to sneak over. So the fastest way to get to the ride is to go right when you go into the park. So we did our rope drop and everybody made their way to Hagrid's, just like always. And we went to the Velocicoaster every day. And every day we walked onto the Velocicoaster, did a ride, got off, walked back in, waited about 5 minutes. By the fourth ride, the wait would be up to about 40 minutes or an hour. But prior to that, we were just going through on 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
That's great.
There were not a lot of people going there, where as soon as you walked to Hagrid's, it is 90 minutes if you're not in the first 300 people. You're going to be waiting. Right. It just immediately fills. And now Velocicoaster also equally fills. However, from what I'm seeing and what I understand, it doesn't feel like Hagrid's still. And my personal opinion for that is it is too much intensity for a lot of people. That Velocicoaster ride is no joke. Hagrid's is like the family-friendly coaster. Velocicoaster is the coaster enthusiast coaster. So it's Velocicoaster is Hagrid's on steroids, similar to Flight of Passage being soaring on steroids. It's that jump in intensity to a similar ride, but yet so different. And Hagrid's has the magnetic drive coaster, the same basic,
the same tech as the Hulk.
Yeah, but I mean, it's similar to Hagrid's more than the Hulk. The Hulk is a rough ride, bounces you around. The game changer for the Velocicoaster, in my personal opinion, is the fact it's only a lap bar. The fact that your head is free and it can move. You're not hitting it against anything. You're not getting knocked around. Rock and Roller Coaster, the Hulk, Rip Ride Rocket, they're rough. They're jarring rides. So your head can hit the over the shoulder bars. You whack your head a bit. You have to focus on holding your head back so you don't whack it around. Velocicoaster, you are just totally free. You're like, woo! I mean, you're swirling your arms and you're like ready to ride. It is just an amazing technology. They did a phenomenal job with the theming. It is the most intense ride in any Orlando theme park, in my opinion. I don't think there's anything that rivals it. A lot of people have compared it in some ways to Mako at SeaWorld, but Mako has that slow climb and then that insane first drop.
Right.
And then it's just kind of a standard coaster, but it is very intense. It's a great ride. I love Mako.
It's funny you bring up Mako because I remember they also have what's called the Manta, right?
Yep.
And I remember the first time I rode the Manta, it's the first time I'd ever been on a coaster that did an inverted barrel roll so that your stomach and your other organs just readjusted themselves in your body. I went, man, that takes some getting used to if you're not expecting it.
Now so here's slightly off Universal topic, but when you work as a stunt driver or doing some of the things you're doing in like Lights Motor Action, when you worked in that, you're obviously pulling, like in some of the vehicles or moves you're doing, you're pulling some pretty serious centrifugal force or G's or anything else that would be similar to what a guest would feel on a coaster. like
Right.
in a sense. So, what's tougher on your body? Like, what's the toughest thing physically that you had that feeling like, man, I'm getting rearranged from the inside out? Like, what's the toughest thing you've experienced that gave you that sensation?
That's a good question. Honestly, probably high falls give you that sensation more than, when you're in a vehicle doing that, especially the stunt show, which you mentioned, Lights, Motors, Action. Your belt configuration should be so that once everything's tightened, you can't move. You literally, you're a part of the vehicle. So
It's like a NASCAR driver.
yeah, exactly. Your body isn't moving except for your arms to steer or to grab the e-brake, and your legs for the clutch and the gas, and once in a while the brake. But that inversion thing, I think, everything is so finely calculated mathematically, from putting the cars up on two wheels to the jumps. Maybe sometimes if you would throw a 360 or a 540, and you came into contact with another vehicle, and that changed your momentum or the trajectory of where you were going, you felt that in your body. But otherwise, I think the roller coasters are much more intense, because as you pointed out, you have only a lap bar or a shoulder harness. And then one more thing to think about is, you have to be in really good physical condition, and you have to have a really strong, tight core to be able to handle those G's and to be able to function, while you're putting your body under that kind of pressure. I think on a roller coaster, you just kind of go, well, what the hell? I'm strapped in. It's out of my control.
Right. I guess that's true. I mean, there's so much more safety protocol that goes into, not that roller coasters aren't safe. That's not what I'm saying, but there's so much additional safety protocol going into a stunt arranged, whether it be in a movie or a show or anything else. There's layer upon layer of, like you said, mathematics, equations, safety nets, like everything, every possible scenario is thought out.
Yes.
Beforehand.
See, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Stunt work is dangerous, and that's why the people who do it are highly trained. And that's the thing that scares me. I was given an interview, and what's the thing that really scares you as a stunt man? And I said, honestly, it's when I'm on a set and there's someone who's new, who may not have the confidence or comfort to say no, or I'm concerned about this stunt, or can we rehearse this once, or you've got a production team that's trying to force the clock to get things going. That's when accidents happen. So you're right about the safety features, and especially in any kind of an ensemble show, you're counting on everybody else to do their part, everybody else to pay attention, everybody else to be all in and have their head in the game. Because, I would tell people that I called Lights, Motors, Action ballroom dancing at 60 miles an hour, because that was what it was. You can't do that without being all in.
Right.
Whereas on a roller coaster, you climb on, and you just sit there and you pull on the bar, or you push on the shoulder harness when they ask you to, and then you watch for whatever the signal is, whether it's this or whatever they're doing, to make sure that the cars are clear to leave the station.
Right.
And then you just hang on.
Well, it's funny because when we did the Velocicoaster, the first night we went in close to close on Saturday night. We got to the parks late Saturday. That was the afternoon I saw you.
Right.
And,
okay.
We had gone to Disney Springs, and then I met up with my friend. I had to drive up. I wound up driving almost. I forget the name of the town.
Was it Wildwood?
He was up in Gainesville.
Did you tell me you met him in Wildwood?
Maybe I think I was a little further than that. What's the
Okay.
college town just a little further than that? Not quite Gainesville, but there's another one that's like just south of Gainesville.
Oh,
But so
yeah.
anyway, I wound up there. Traffic was a little bit crazy that day. So his wife drove him down and he met me and we drove back. By the time we got into the rooms and got checked in and got over to the parks, it was like 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock.
Nice.
And the parks were closing at 9. So we didn't have a lot of time. But we went over and we were like, let's do Velocicoaster. And we got in line and we waited and we did it. And we rode in like the 6th car back. And as we got off, and as you know, we always give the thank you cards to all the team members. That's something we've done for years. I even did it, even though Tegan wasn't there.
Yep.
She had wanted to say thank you to cast members and team members. So I gave out the cards anyway. And when we got off, one of the team members said, hey, would you guys like to ride again? And I was like,
nice.
And Rusty goes, without missing a beat, Rusty was like, of course we do. And he's like, where would you like to ride? And he's like, up front immediately. He just wanted to go. And I had kind of wanted to hold on to riding in the front till I could do it with Tegan. Right. And in that moment, we both just said, you know what? This is opportunity. It's karma, whatever. Let's jump on. And we did it. And we rode up front. And I will say the intensity of the ride up front was incredible. It was really good. And it's a ride that I would say in general, if you're going to do it at night, if you're the thrill seeker looking for the best possible ride and you want the zero gravity and the tightest feeling that you can get, you want it all when you ride that coaster. The best seat on the Velocicoaster is actually the last row on the left-hand side, and you sit on the inside last seat. And
take notes, people.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and you can laugh at me all you want, but if you ride every seat in that train, and I talked to more team members that were part of the opening team, there were people that were riding that ride. Some of the actors and actresses that shot the promotional video, they were telling us that they had ridden like 20 times in a row.
Yeah.
And then they all were like, okay, we need
yes, yes.
And they had to take a breather. But team members were telling us, and team member after team member said, best seat, back row left side, back row left side, back row left side. And then there's a few that prefer the front. And what I would tell you is the first time you ride it, if you can, ride it during the daylight hours, make sure you can see, and ride the front, because you get unobstructed views of all the theming that went into the ride. You get to see where the statues are. You get to actually see first person with nothing in front of you, the rides, the twirls, the inversions, everything, the launches. It's very intense. But after you ride in the front and you're ready for that wild ride, request the back row on the inner seat. There's 24 seats in a car. You go back to that back row and sit inside towards the exit of the ride, and you will experience the wildest roller coaster ride that Universal has to offer. It is by far the most intense ride currently in Orlando.
So you mentioned talking to the actors that had been on and shooting the promotional for it. Early in my career, I got cast as someone who got to ride when they had the Fire and Ice Dragons. Remember those coasters?
Yeah.
And it was through Heinz Productions, and like, show up and solid clothing. But they literally they put us on the coasters and over. And after the third pass, they started stopping and saying, "Okay, who's okay? Who needs to get off?" It's like one hand, another hand, I made it 9 times, and then I think they ran it twice more and then stopped so everybody could take a break. But it
100%, Frank. Frank's comment is 100% spot on right there.
Yep.
You have to do them twice.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So go ahead with the fire and
Yeah. So no, just simply that I think that's a thing. No matter how much of a pro you are, for me it was 9 times, and then when it came into the station, I was like, yeah, I need a break. 9 times riding the same coaster, and
we rode 21 times Memorial Day weekend. I rode Velocicoaster 21 times, and each morning we did it 4 to 5 times in a row before we, not
That's
back
awesome.
to back to back,
right?
Because you still had to get off and go through the line and everything
Right.
else. The queue is amazing. It's well themed, and so another thing on Universal, as we've spent a lot of time on Velocicoaster. Universal utilizes lockers that Disney doesn't. Disney, all their rides, you can take your bag on. You bring your little back.
Right.
Or you leave it with a fiber, but there, we're gonna see if okay, I think I'm back.
There
I
you
think
are.
I'm back. We had a little internet issue there. Are you still there, Ron?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. I think we just unfroze. Hopefully, Frank, we can let it go. Hopefully, we let
That's
it
the
go.
wrong park.
No, I know, but Frank wrote you're frozen.
Oh.
So I'm hoping we can let it go.
That's great.
So hopefully we're back. Sorry, that was an internet issue on my end. We have had some weather issues up here, and internet has been spotty.
That explains it.
But what I was saying, I just totally lost my train of thought. There it goes. Choo choo. Bye bye. Where were we? We were talking about the rides. And, the lockers. So Universal requires you on many rides to use lockers.
Right.
Velocicoaster has innovated the locker game to the point where I hope everything in Epic Universe utilizes the same technology because it is ingenious. The locker system on the Velocicoaster, as you enter the ride, you carry everything with you. When you get to the final staging area, you cross through the lockers. And as you get into the locker room area, everybody puts their stuff in. But when you exit the ride, you take your stuff out of the back side of the locker.
That's awesome. So each locker has doors on both sides.
Correct. But you're not overpopulating the locker area with people trying to get on the ride with the people coming off.
And the lockers are dedicated just for the ride.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yep.
So when you walk off, you grab your stuff, you go out the door. Now, tip. If you rope drop, and this may change because they may start catching on to this and make people
especially if you're sharing it on this venue.
But correct. But if you rope drop Velocicoaster, or if there is a short crowd or a light wait, and you want to expedite the process of getting back into line, leave your stuff in the locker. So we did.
Wait, can you lock the lockers?
The lockers are all locked, but instead of picking up on your way out, you just leave it there. because you're going to have to go through the line again. Now, this will mean you don't have your phone while you wait in line next time. This will mean you don't have your stuff with you. So if you need your phone or anything else, go ahead and grab it. But if you're going around to ride again, if you're like rope dropping, you go in, you ride, there's a 10-minute wait, you want to run through and go again, don't get the locker, because like leave your stuff in the locker. They're good for 90 minutes is what they tell you. So if the ride is shorter than 90 minutes or the wait is like 30 minutes or the wait is real quick, turn around, leave your stuff. It might gain you 20 to 40 people in line, because you're not going to stop to get it out on the way back. You're going to walk right by everybody in that line. If all those people go back in line, you're now ahead of that whole crowd. And on the other side, when you walk back through, when everybody stops to fill the lockers in the last area, you walk straight to the next point. So you're also going to pass 30 to 40 people again there. You can, it saves you about 3 to 4 trains worth of time.
Here's a question just for clarification for everybody out there. If you decide, do you have to pay for the lockers?
No.
Okay.
The small lockers are free. And they say that you're not supposed to hold the locker for more than 90 minutes from what I remember reading. Okay. So if the wait is short enough, you're able to come in and cycle through. Like what we did, the mornings we did it, we didn't realize we could do this until the last day. So every day we're getting off the ride, grabbing our stuff, going to get our picture, and then running around and doing it again, and then grabbing our stuff and going around to get our picture. And we kept doing that. And then the last day I was like, why don't we're going again. The wait's 10 minutes. Like, let's just leave our stuff in the locker. Now, and we went through and it was saving us so much time. I was like, oh my God, Brian, a 10-minute wait takes 5 minutes.
Can people leave their stuff in the locker and then after they ride, go visit somewhere else in the park and then come back later?
No, because of the accessibility. Because it's so deep into the queue, you have to wait in line to access your locker. So if you left stuff and then went to do other rides to come back, and then it was a 90-minute wait for Velocicoaster,
you gotta wait 90 minutes to get
you're going to wait 90 minutes just to get your stuff back. Yeah. And at that point, they may have already emptied the locker and taken the stuff out because it may be over the time volume. So you do want to be careful of it. But that's why I say when you're rope dropping or early morning and you're going to go a couple times, or if it's late at night and the wait is only, 30 minutes or 20 minutes and you're going to go multiple times, leave your stuff in the locker. Like it worked great and we enjoyed it. I really, truly hope Universal takes advantage of that locker system across the board in the new park. And even if they refurbish some of the current rides, I could see them utilizing some of the spaces in a ride like Rip Ride Rocket or some of the others where you may be able to even create a locker system where you could do a similar thing in some of those rides. Because the exit comes down and abuts the entrance with a wall. So if you took that wall out and made it lockers, that gives you the access to the backside and the front side.
I think
that's the theory behind the riding.
I think that's a great plus for guests. Clearly,
it's seriously it's a game changer, because when you go to like Forbidden Journey, for example, or even Hagrid's, there's 2 locker locations.
Yeah,
you're kind of getting pushed off to the side. Yep. People coming off. Now during COVID, I will say, they were phenomenal with how Universal chose to send people in to the locker areas. There was 1 to 2 parties allowed per station. That was it. So if someone was standing there, you had to wait. It slowed the sequence, but the safety and awareness and the team members in charge of keeping that pace, I was very impressed with how they did things. They really did a great job. And even though it may be frustrating to some guests, as a former manager, as a someone who works in entertainment and someone who spends a lot of time in theme parks, it was great to see from an organizational standpoint how they were keeping things under control and safe for the guests.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really impressive. Now it's more of a free-for-all, obviously, and kind of back to what it was. And that's what makes Velocicoaster's queue so incredible, because of the locker system being that way. So that's a nice thing. And then, I mean, we were impressed with food at Universal. We have been impressed with lodging. Now, I personally have stayed at 3 resorts there. I stayed at Hard Rock on our first trip there, and we are going back to the Hard Rock next month. And I thoroughly enjoyed Hard Rock, 90% because of the location and ability to walk to the park in less than 5 minutes. You don't need a car. You don't need anything. You're just boom. And
I will tell you, I've stayed at the 3 Legacy resorts, which are Royal Pacific, Hard Rock, and the Portofino. I love the Portofino and Royal Pacific because the environment you talk about, all immersive.
Yeah.
I mean, especially at night. Both resorts at night are just stunning. But as I was saying on a previous episode, the best night of sleep I ever had in a resort bed anywhere in the world was at the Loews Portofino. It was amazing. But my gosh, I think those resorts they're stunning. And I don't mind the extra time having to climb on the, what's that?
That was the Dolphin resort for me.
Yeah, I don't mind the time that you have to allow to climb onto the boat, the launch, to take it over to City Walk. I think the whole thing is stunning. But yeah, the Portofino and Royal Pacific at night, they come alive. They're stunning in their architecture, the way they're designed, the feel and the vibe of it is just, man, there's nothing like it, really.
Right. And 2 things I'll say about the Hard Rock, just, as a travel agent, as somebody who is, the benefits, proximity to the park is number one. There is no resort at Universal closer to the parks than Hard Rock. It is the quickest walk. It's less than a 5-minute walk from your hotel to the gate by Universal Studios. You can be at Islands of Adventure in 10 minutes.
Is that the same? Wait, isn't Royal Pacific about the same distance walking wise?
Not too far. Yeah, probably is now, to be honest with you. That one's pretty close too, but closer to Islands.
Right.
You come in at the Island side.
Right.
The other plus to the Hard Rock that I personally love, if you enjoy the live music vibe and the outdoor sound and the party atmosphere and everything else, their pool area is one of the most fun on any property anywhere. With Beach Club going on, with music underwater, just all that, I know Art of Animation's pool at Disney has music underwater.
That's right.
It's a little more kid oriented.
And that's a value resort.
Correct, it is. But at the Hard Rock, it's more of an adult-oriented bar environment. It's the dancing and fun. It's a great vibe. And if that's something you enjoy, that's a great place to go.
I may be an outlier for saying this. I didn't enjoy the Hard Rock as much. To me, the Hard Rock Resort at Universal, it feels like a franchisee bought the rights to slap on the name and grab some gack to throw on the walls. The walls are paper thin. That was the thing. I've stayed there more than once, and that was the thing for me that was kind of annoying. You spend the money to build a resort like this. Can you at least provide a little insulation between rooms?
I think, unfortunately, that's a sad reality in most hotels now. And I know
it wasn't. I assure you, it wasn't an issue at Royal Pacific or Portofino. Definitely not at Portofino.
Well, it can also depend. And one thing I've learned is like, so I've seen people say that about Pop Century at Disney.
Yeah, which
We've
makes
never
sense.
I've never heard anybody at Pop.
Right.
So
Same.
we've been very blessed to have the greatest neighbors we possibly could on vacation. Or, sometimes people just get stuck next to that extremely loud family,
Yeah.
or the people that argue, or the people that party, or whatever it is. It's not always the hotel itself. Sometimes it's actually the guests. So I always take those reviews personally with a grain of salt. And as I have said in a prior episode as well, for us, we spend so much time in the park. Like,
Right.
when I hear people say, like you made the comment, the best night
Yep.
of sleep you ever got was at Portofino. After a day in the parks for us, I could have the best night of sleep I've ever had in the back of my Honda Pilot. I mean, it really doesn't matter where I wind up, because as people say at Disney, there's no tired like Disney tired. It's the
Right.
same thing in any theme park. If you rope drop and you're there till close, and you're doing that in, Tegan and I travel in July and August, and we're in Florida in the highest heat of the year, like the most intense times, and we still go open to close. We don't go take pool breaks generally. We have on occasion, but we generally don't. We're generally in the parks
Yep.
open to close. And when you talk 12 hours, 14, 15 hours, walking 20, 30, 40,000 steps, 10, 12, 15, 20 miles, you get back to your resort, and I'm literally falling face first on a bed. And sometimes I forget to pull down the bed and I fall face first on the table, and I still sleep all night. So like when you're that tired, the accommodations aren't as key factor. But I will agree with you in the sense that, like I said, Dolphin had the most comfortable bed I've ever slept in. You say Portofino at Universal. I have never stayed there, so I have no way to compare it to that. We have stayed now at Cabana Bay, Surfside, and Hard Rock.
Right.
We're going to be staying at Sapphire Falls in October and adding another resort. I'm hoping to go back next year, and I want to do a split stay. I'd like to do one of the other deluxe resorts if I can swing it financially. And then 2, I'd also like to stay at Aventura, just to step back a little and try the other moderate. And, then I'll eventually stay at Dockside sometime. But I want to let their hotels die down a little bit. Dockside was a madhouse when we went in.
So here's a quick question for you, and I know this is jumping way ahead. When the train is in and on the tracks, are you entertaining the idea of staying at Universal but taking the train to do trips to Disney, day trips to Disney, or hopping back and forth between the two?
So
here's properties?
Here's what's funny. We always have rented a car. Always. We always have a vehicle. I have driven back and forth to Disney from Universal or from SeaWorld. We have stayed back in the day when Nickelodeon had the resort in Orlando.
Right.
We stayed there. Worst hotel I've ever stayed at. Worst service. Worst issues I've ever had in a hotel. Our faucet fell apart in our bathroom sink. We had only cold water in the shower. We were supposed to be in a Dora-themed suite for Tegan when she was like, I don't know, it's 2014, so she must have been 5 or 6. And I guess she was 6, turning 7 that year. And we had no towels. Funny story, we had to call down to the front desk to ask for towels at the Nickelodeon resort. And wasn't even a housekeeper that came up. It was the guy that worked in the laundry room came up with an armful of towels that were not even folded.
Yeah.
They were still warm out of the dryer. He just brought an armful of towels up right out of the dryer, warm, knocked on the door. I opened the door. He literally threw them into my hands. I didn't even know they were coming. He threw them. I'm like scrambling to try to catch these towels. He's like, yo, you needed towels? I got you, bro. And I'm thinking to myself, this Ashton Kutcher is going to walk around the corner and be like, you getting punked. And it just didn't happen. But it was the worst hotel experience we ever had. I wrote a review on Yelp about it. They called me and offered me $3,500 in free stays and everything else to take the review down. And I said no. And the review still stands and is up there. But they were trying to buy me out of taking that review down, and it got up to $3,500. And I would never stay there again. You couldn't pay me to stay in that hotel.
But so when that train comes, because it's going to be stopping,
I won't train.
You won't?
No.
Why?
Two reasons. One, I think it's going to be not as cost friendly as people are thinking. I really do. I would rather drive. I'm a bit of a control freak, I guess, in that sense, that I like to be in. Like, I don't like riding the buses, even at Disney. I like taking my car to the parks. I like having my own ability to get to and from places. I like to know I have a vehicle parked there. If God forbid the monorail breaks down or something else, I like to know I can walk to where my car is.
Right.
And go. I've been victimized of transportation issues over the years. Having a car is always my safest bet, my safety net. Even when we go to the Hard Rock in August, I will have a rental car the whole time we're there, and we'll just be walking. Like, it'll sit, and I'll pay my $28 a day to park it, and I'll pay the excessive rental cost of getting a rental car right now. But Frank, I've been hearing about the train for 30 years. I'll believe it when I see it. It's actually supposed to be completed when they finish the building on I-4.
No, before. Because I-4 is never going to be finished.
No. The building, the famous, infamous building on I-4 that's still under construction.
Oh, the Darth Vader building.
Yeah, they'll finish the train when they finish that.
No, that's never going to be finished.
So now, as a Floridian, would you utilize the train as transportation?
You bet your ass.
Okay. Now, would you? Now, are you looking forward to that being offered?
I am. I'm looking forward to. I mean, they're making tremendous headway. The work is going on at several different locations. You can see the station and the tracks over at the new airport terminal at MCO. You could see when you go along the 528.
Now, that technically, the scheduled route, the scheduled route for that is from Miami up through Orlando all the way to Tampa, correct?
So the way it looks, I'm not sure if it's going up the East Coast and then over by where Cape Canaveral is, because
that's the way it looks to me.
Yeah, they're building track to run parallel to the 528, and then it's going to go to the airport, and then it goes down. There's supposed to be a stop somewhere near Universal or iDrive, and then there's also going to be the station at Disney Springs. And yes, there's going to be continuation out to the west coast of Florida. And
it's 3 separate segments or projects. The way they broke it down, it appeared.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
The East Coast leg, then the Central Florida leg to Disney, and then that last leg from Disney to Tampa.
Excuse me. Yes, that's correct.
Because it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I mean, I think listen. I know we harped on a couple of things for quite a while at Universal tonight, and I want to, do another episode with Universal, because I feel like we need to talk a little bit more about restaurants, about policies, about Express Pass, about the benefits of annual pass membership that currently,
We should actually, you know what we'll do, and it'll probably take more than one episode, is just focus on doing a comparative analysis
yep.
of the parks, and we can even, you know, if people want to hear us talk about SeaWorld as well, we can lump that in. We can include them as well, because they've got some, you know, they got some awesome things going on over there. They got some great shows, and
Cost
you know,
cost wise, obviously the annual pass at SeaWorld is the best out there. I mean, you really can't rival what they offer for their annual pass cost anywhere.
Right.
But you do limit yourself to fewer parks with fewer variety. But the plus to me, Disney is so big. You know, you're a top tier annual pass with Disney is garnishing you 6 parks. You know, and I mean, when you really look at it that way, I understand why you pay the amount of money you do, but there's still only so many days that you can go to things. So instead of, you know, for an out-of-stater like me, you know, our best years as pass holders, we got between 30 and 40 days at the resort. And that's a lot. I mean, to spend a month of your year at Disney is a lot. And, you know, we were very blessed to be able to do that. But as a pass holder to Universal, I have been more impressed with Universal's overall benefits that are included with being a top tier pass holder with that company than I have been recently with Disney. Now, when we started with Disney, I'll say we spent about the same amount of money we just did to get the top tier pass at Universal. That was when we started with Disney. That was back in 2017 for us. So 4 years ago, Disney's price for an annual pass top shelf was about the same of what it is now at Universal. What started to frustrate me a little with Disney, even early on, was the second year when we renewed, you got a 15% discount off your purchase price to renew your annual pass.
Right. It's a loyalty reward.
But there was a 15% annual increase in the cost of the pass.
Yeah.
So it wound up bringing us right back to what we had paid the year before, which really gave us no savings, which psychologically was just a little frustrating. Universal offers higher discounts for food, merchandise, and hotel percentage-wise than Disney does. And Universal's hotel rates are already, in my opinion, significantly lower than Disney's. Now, again, Universal doesn't have the same full-fledged benefits that Disney does offer. You know, they're similar, very similar in a lot of ways. You still get the bus to the parks or the boat. You know, you get a couple different varieties of transportation. You know, the parking still gets waived if you're staying, you know, like if you're at the resort.
At the resort,
You know, if you're a pass holder, which is nice at both, if you're top tier at least, you don't pay for parking at either resort. I believe if you're lower tier at Universal, you can wind up paying. I'm just reading Frank's comments here. Yeah, I mean, you guys get the benefit of being able to do that. Unfortunately, as a non-resident of Florida, we're almost forced to get the top tier passes because of my visitation time with Tegan, because it's holiday weekends, school vacation weeks, and everything else. And those are all the times that I'd be blacked out if I didn't have a top tier pass.
That's right.
So I've always had to get the pass that was like the creme de la creme. Universal really gave us a good deal this year. We got 15 months for the price of 12. There was a discount on top of that when I bought my pass due to COVID. I think we paid just over $700 a pass for the 3-park Premier Pass. We can go to the water park or either park anytime. We get a great discount on hotel stays. I mean, very significant. when I got my annual pass room rate, I saved $500 or more on every booking I had. So that was huge. And I will say this for Universal too. I know we're a little over an hour, so we got to wrap up. But Universal's team members and customer service has been on par with Disney over the last year, at least in my personal experience, with every issue we've had to go to guest services about. Anytime I've had to call as a travel agent for any of the parks or any park related issues, Universal's been on par, and sometimes even better. In fairness, I will say Disney sets the bar for customer service and always has. Universal is right there with them now, and it has taken a long time for that part to climb into that realm. But they, as I said early in this broadcast, they are not the redheaded stepchild in Orlando anymore. They are not. Universal is a top tier theme park, top tier resorts, top tier restaurants for theme park food. One thing I always try to remind everybody, when you see 5 stars in a theme park, it's 3 to 4 stars anywhere else. 5 stars for theme park food is not 5-star dining.
Well, Mythos has garnered.
Yeah, even Mythos, Ron. I was impressed with Mythos, and it was by far the best theme park meal I've ever had. But it's not the North End in Boston. It's not going to
but nothing's
in New Orleans.
Nothing's. You're talking about things that are a combination of regional and cuisine known for that area.
No, but I'm talking restaurants that are considered a 5-star dining experience. I would not categorize Mythos as a 5-star dining experience. It is a very good upscale restaurant with fantastic food, but I don't think that the people that are calling it out as a 5-star restaurant, if you go to a 5-star restaurant in any major city in the United States, you're getting better service and better experience and generally better food than you are at a theme park.
And you're typically better dressed.
Yeah, valid point.
Theme park food has definitely upped its game, generally speaking, no matter what park you're talking about. But you see people go into fine dining establishments at Epcot, at Islands of Adventure, wearing string tops and tank tops. And like, okay, we're on vacation, I guess.
100%. And I mean, and listen, I think also, and we can do a whole episode on food sometime too, because that'll be a great episode to talk about. But one of the things that has changed in the overall restaurant experience everywhere is Americans have become more health conscious. And as society becomes more health aware and more health conscious, theme parks especially have to adjust that mindset, because the churros, the butterbeer, and all the things that we love to have, at the local fair, the fried dough, the things that, we associate with a party, a fair, a theme park, all those things, they're important. But at the same time, when you go to have a sit down at a meal and you want to sit down and have a dining experience, even at a theme park, with the money you're paying now that these restaurants are commanding, you better get high quality food. If I'm paying $60 or $70 a person, you think about it, $42 for the breakfast buffets at Disney, you're getting scrambled eggs for the most part, that are pre-made, and you're paying $42, which I don't oppose, because you're getting a character experience, which is worth an extra $25.
And that's what
they charge for. Correct. Correct.
That's what you're paying for.
But at the same time, with that price becomes a level of expectation with quality food, and they have upped their game. Chef Mickey's has their ham now is phenomenal. Yep. They have changed a lot of the recipes and a lot of the things that they serve to better that game. But I think that has become an issue for a lot of theme park restaurants, that they understand they got to step up their game a little bit based on what they're charging and what customers want. What customers want are those healthier options
Well,
where
you're
they
right.
can get a grilled protein where, it's not just fried food.
People have expectations, and rightfully so. I think there was a period in time where theme park food was very similar to what you would find at the state fair or at a carnival, but it's
Correct.
just no longer the case. And I think
Well, with
that's
90%, I mean, years ago, it was 90% fried or burgers. Like
Yep.
that's what it was. And, as time has progressed, again, society's become more aware. And they also started to realize people would sit down and spend 90 minutes for
Right.
a meal at a theme park when the original mindset was we want to make food quick and easy for people so they don't have to spend time away from the park. But as the park progressed and people realized, hey, it's hot in Florida. Let me sit down in air conditioning for 90 minutes and cool off and have an actual break and enjoy a nice meal and not have to leave the park, not have to go back to my hotel.
And remember also, there's a certain appeal to high affinity guests who want to come and they want to have the best experience they can possibly have, and they're willing to pay for it. We're talking about theme parks and theme park restaurants, but if we're going to talk about resorts as well, you've got Emerald's Chop Chop, which I think is over at Royal Pacific, and then you've got Victoria and Albert's, which hands down probably holds its own against any theme park or resort restaurant anywhere in the world.
And Frank brings up a good point too, and especially with Disney and Universal, and that's their mindset, is you don't want a guest leaving property.
Nope.
You want that inclusive, like, Disney, for the years that they included the transportation from the airport and everything else, they made it easy to get to the parks because they want you in the Disney bubble and they don't want you leaving it till your flight home. So maximizing that, and Universal has the same mindset. That's why City Walk's right in front of you with every restaurant. As you exit the park, they don't want you leaving yet. Go eat your dinner, and then you can go back to their hotel, and they'll run your bus there, and then you can sleep, and then you can come back and have Voodoo Donuts in the morning, which look absolutely amazing. And we may be trying those this next trip. But guys, we're gonna wrap it up tonight. Thank you for watching. Frank, we appreciate you being here.
Frank, thank you very much for tuning in tonight.
Yeah, and next week, I think we'll continue on with some Universal talk and try to do it more in a sense that I think we'll take the literal park itself, start with one of them, and work our way as you would walk around and talk about what you're going to see, what you're going to experience, and what's available, and almost do like a walking tour. We can talk about Minions and Shrek as you walk in, Jimmy Fallon, Rip Ride Rocket, The Mummy, the seasonal store that is there at Universal that changes
the
all
parades,
the time.
Hopefully the parades when they come back, like the Thanksgiving Day parade.
Yep, some of the holiday parades. I know the parade the parades are running again, the regular parades.
You know what? We're gonna have to do this with both Disney and Universal. I love that. We're gonna do that. We're gonna walk around the park.
Yeah, let's
park.
So we'll
maybe
start
the resorts too.
We'll start with Universal next week, and we'll start with Universal Studios itself, the original park. Then the week after, we'll go to either a Disney park or Islands of Adventure. Maybe we'll bounce back and forth and do the different parks. And then I also, before the end of the summer, I would also like to do the water parks. And that could be one show where we can talk about Volcano Bay, Aquatica, Blizzard Beach, and Typhoon Lagoon, which hopefully will be opening again soon. We will see what happens with that. No official announcement yet. But the aerial pictures of Typhoon Lagoon empty with the water drained are eye-popping. They're really incredible to see the differences in how a park that was thriving just looks abandoned and quiet.
Actually, so if you want to talk about aerial views, NASA, there's a time lapse of the Central Florida area from like 1965 to 2014, and you're just watching the parks pop up, and you're watching the areas expand as the footprints change.
So you need to find the link for that so we can post it on the page.
Okay.
That's your job this week, and my job, I will create some flyers as we'll be setting up to do Universal Studios for episode 5, and we will go from there. I want to thank you guys once again for watching. We ran a little long tonight, but it was worth it. Thanks for watching episode 4, Universal Studios. Episode 5 going to be very similar, but we're going to stick to that park. And want to thank you guys for joining us on behalf of both Ron and myself. We will see you next time.
You